All right. We get some other news. So we've been following the Texas tragedy, we call it.
I think it's a fair way to call it.
Yeah. So this gentleman here, Carmelo Anthony. So I got some new news on this.
Of course we do.
All right. This gentleman, Carmelo Anthony, basically admitted to the cop who arrested him. Yeah, I did it. I'm not alleged. I did it. Stabbed this gentleman right here. So
what else is new then?
What else is new? Well, we didn't know this when we were first reporting this, and this is sort of a correction for us. In 2005, excuse me. Let me start from the beginning. Carmelo Anthony, the 17-year-old suspect in the stabbing death of Frisco, Texas track star Austin Metcalf, cannot face the death penalty or life without parole, according to the district attorney, Greg Willis.
All right.
All right.
Interesting. What's Willis for this?
Willis explained that prosecutors cannot seek the death penalty or life without parole because of the Supreme Court ruling in a case called Roper v. Simmons from 2005 that excludes juveniles from those punishments. So they're
not charging him as an adult?
They're charging him with first degree, but not as an adult now, apparently.
Apparently.
So the Supreme Court has said that not only can you not seek the death penalty against someone who committed a crime under 17, you can't even get them life without parole. That would be something we could. That would not be something we could do even if we wanted to. And I'm sure that I think that basically.
I think that's what they wanted to. Yeah.
All right. Anthony has been charged with first-degree murder in Metcalf's death. The pair went to different Frisco high schools, but were both at Kirkendall Stadium, April 2nd for a track meet where the alleged stabbing occurred. Asked whether the trial will be moved outside of Collin County, Willis said that's up to the judge. Quote, ultimately, that'll be a judge's decision to make at the time of the trial. But yes, this happened in Collin County. I want Collin County citizens to be able to decide this. So the DA does not want this moved. He wants it right there. He wants to try it right there.
And I'm sure the defense wants to move it to somewhere else.
Right? Oh, this gets even.
Well, are they going to try him as an adult? Or as of this moment, they're just not going to go after that?
Yeah, I think that it's not going to go after that.
All right.
At this point. So here's the deal. We talked about how this is going to turn into a race thing.
Okay, yeah.
Oh God, it's not even turning into. It is, right?
Okay, now it's become one. Okay, great.
While the hearing will be open to the public, cameras will not be allowed inside the courtroom, and there will be no live stream of the proceedings. Okay,
that's fair.
An online fundraising campaign for Anthony has climbed steadily all week and has now surpassed. So the suspect, the guy who's basically admitted to saying he stabbed the guy, has got over $300,000.
Let me get this straight.
Yeah.
We have a GoFundMe already?
It's not a GoFundMe. It's because GoFundMe, you can't do this on GoFundMe for criminal stuff and whatnot. It's a different platform.
All right. Well, I mean, he's entitled to a defense, of course.
Yep.
As to what defense he's going to plead is going to be interesting. I'm sure $300,000 is a good amount to start off with for a defense attorney.
I'm sure
a good defense attorney, and I'm sure there are people lining up. Either with some reputation to prove or eager lawyers to offer their services. But yeah, we'll see.
Well, here's the thing, right? It's not just that, but it seems like the suspect. It's like that healthcare guy, the healthcare shooting.
Oh yeah,
right. Luigi or whatever guy's name is, that idiot, right? Everybody's like, they're like, yeah, he's a hero. He's not a hero. He killed somebody. He killed a father. He killed a husband. He killed a person, right? I don't care what the motivations were. He committed murder. To applaud that is ridiculous and sick, right? They're all of a sudden these people are applauding this guy. I'm going to continue.
Wait, what do you mean people are applauding?
Yeah. He's the new George Floyd.
What?
Oh God, yes. Here we go.
What? How?
Hell,
this happened. Whoa.
Meanwhile, Dallas activist and head of an organization called Next Generation Action Network, Dominique Alexander, met with the Frisco police Tuesday behind closed doors. Police refused to comment after the meeting, but Alexander held a press conference and told reporters he asked police for increased protection of the Anthony home, the suspect's home, claiming that their address had been maliciously shared online. Quote, we have saw so many different hateful images, just hateful things, and the Next Generation Action Network wants to reiterate Carmelo Anthony has a right to a fair trial, unbiased and removed of racial hate and bigotry. Absolutely. I do not disagree with you.
That's fair.
All right. But then we go on. Alexander has been critical of police and the justice system in the past. Next Generation Action Network held a George Floyd Week in 2021 to commemorate Floyd's death the prior year, right?
Is that right?
Quote, the movement, this is Alexander, the movement for Black Lives must win, that everyone should be protected, and that the statehood of policing must change. Like, one of the things I always say is that every victim, every family doesn't get the same attention like a George Floyd or a Breonna Taylor. It does not mean that their issues are not important. It just means that they're oppressive, that this oppressive system has won to suppress the facts about the case. And he did not return comment or request from this spring. So yeah, we've already invoked the name of George Floyd here.
Well, hold on. Did he bring that up, or did the news bring that up? Looks like the article brought it up.
The article brought it up,
which is so it was not related. The article is adding things in there that's not related. Yes, he's got a history, but that's because that's what his movement is all about.
Do you think this is a case of police brutality?
No.
Do you think this is a case? No,
he's not alleging that.
Of oppression.
No, he's not alleging that. He's not alleging.
Then why is he there?
He's there because of the death threats to the family.
Okay.
And he wants protection for the family, which is fair.
That's fine. I think the family, and the police can work that out and figure that out on their own. We don't need action network there.
Not necessarily, but I'm sure the action network is not there.
He's there for donations money.
I'm sure he's there for also donation money, but at the same time,
he's there for the press.
I'm sure the family is happy to have an organization speak on their behalf for the need of protection and put pressure. So listen,
the same family that said that there's false rumors being spread online. Here's my question: why can't that's all they say? There's false information being spread online. Okay, what is that false information? They don't tell you.
They probably can't tell you. Their lawyer probably told them don't say a thing as to the details of the case. Which is smart if that's a lawyer defense. Listen, I'm not trying to say that the family's right in the right here, but I'm just or the victim. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that the suspect is innocent of all that he's been accused of. Of course, he's alleged. He's got to go to trial. It has to be proven. What I am saying is this: any good defense lawyer is going to tell your family to not talk about the details of the case because it can put your case in jeopardy. So of course they're not going to be like to go out and tell you there is false information. They're not going to be specific with the false information if there is false information.
I'm just saying, if I was a defense attorney, I'm telling people I'd have them be as vocal as possible because that's how you not Carmelo. Carmelo keeps his mouth shut, but the family out there can say no, that's bullshit, that's fake news, that's just create as much of a shitstorm as possible.
The problem is just the parents are the guardians, so that their word would be more associated with Carmelo as a result because he's their legal guardian. They're the adults in the room essentially talking with the lawyer, making certain decisions with him. You know what I mean?
For me,
so it's not the same thing. If it was
if you're going to tell me it's false information, then tell me what's false, so I know it's false.
You can ask that, and that's a fair thing to ask. But you got
especially to the people who are prospective jurors out there who are reading this stuff already. Do you think he's going to be able to find a jury pool who hasn't read anything online about this case in that county?
Probably not.
So if there's false information, you better be out there.
Well, that's what court is for, to prove. Is this information false?
By the time you've already chosen those jurors, they're already tainted.
To an extent, sure, maybe. But everyone's tainted. We have the internet. Yeah. Everything's tainted. You could probably go down to Houston and try to pick a juror from there. And they would have already known some details of this case.
Well, here we go. Metcalf, here we go. We got more details for you, by the way.
I just don't like the direction this article is going already.
The arrest report from the incident.
Oh, okay. Now this is interesting. I do want to hear more about this.
Okay.
Not more speculation. I want facts. I want facts, gringo.
Make sure this stuff.
Very sad, Chandler Panners.
Yeah, here we go. An arrest report from the incident paints a clear picture of what the police and witnesses claim happened during the stabbing inside the Memorial High School track team's tent.
Okay.
Metcalf reportedly told Anthony that he needed to move out of the Memorial team's tent, a witness told Frisco police. The report noted that Anthony grabbed his bag, opened it, and reached inside it, and then said, "Touch me, see what happens." Metcalf then pushed Anthony out of the tent, according to the report. And the next moment, the witness told police that Anthony, quote, reached into his bag, and the male took a knife out of the bag and stabbed Austin.
Okay. Wait, so pushed away, then proceeded to escalate.
So
according to this,
the timeline is no one had any physical contact. The first thing Carmelo did was put his hand in his bag, obviously grabbing a knife, and said, "Touch me and see what happens. Get out of the tent. You don't belong here." Pushed him out of the tent. and then the stabbing. So there was obvious for me that speaks to intent. He was intending to stab this kid.
Did he have intent to stab him? Did he have intent to kill?
Right?
Different.
Listen,
But
if you stab someone in the chest,
yeah,
it ain't meant to tickle.
Yeah, exactly. It is intended to kill. If he stabbed him like the knee or the shoulder or something, different.
Or just kind of did a little swipe. No, he stabbed him.
He stabbed him.
So a school resource officer was the first to respond to the scene and handcuffed Anthony, noting that there was blood on the suspect's left finger. Quote, I was protecting myself, Anthony said. He put his hands on me. One officer at the scene referred to Anthony as the alleged suspect, and Anthony made a spontaneous statement according to the report. He said, quote, I'm not alleged. I did it. Anthony also asked the officers if Metcalf was going to be okay, and then asked if what happened could be considered self-defense.
Okay. This does not look good for you if you're the defense attorney. The problem with the big problem with, besides the whole fact that a kid died and the tragedy that occurred in result of these two lives pretty much being ruined. The problem if you're a defense attorney is you're looking at the fact that he grabbed his knife before anything had occurred, which means either A, he was expecting this to escalate, and instead of removing himself from a situation that was going to escalate, and seeking the help or advice of a supervisor that was right there, he decided to stand his ground, which again has they're probably going to plead stand your ground because this is a stand your ground state, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken,
it is Texas. A stand your ground state.
Which means he does have a right to say, "Hey, do not touch me." So, can you argue that him putting his hand on the knife counts as premeditation to an assault that then resulted in a murder, which would be then what, second degree? I'm sure they're charging first degree, so they don't have to charge down.
I don't know if you're grabbing a knife already before anything even happens. I'm thinking to myself, you're looking to do harm.
Well, at the same time, I mean, same situation.
And again, what are you doing with a knife and a track meet?
That is my concern. What are you doing with a knife and a track meet? But also at the same time is, I'm sure the argument can be like, well, if he had a gun, you put your hand on your gun, and you make a threat saying, "Hey, don't come any closer, I'll shoot you," or "Don't do anything funny," and you know what I mean. Those people don't get charged with murder. So you could argue in this scenario, you're just substituting the gun for a knife. See what I mean?
Yeah.
So as bad as that is, it is still a possible way to explain it away if you're in the defense. Now, if the prosecution, you gotta hammer that point of why he had the knife there and why did he grab the knife instinctually instead of removing himself from a situation when there are adults around. Because the problem with stand your ground is this. Stand your ground is like there's no other way to get, like if there's no police officer nearby, there's no help that is in the immediate vicinity to help de-escalate the situation. There is a supervisor there. That's your problem.
I got the arrest report.
But am I wrong?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all.
Am I wrong with my?
You're not wrong at all.
I'm trying to
listen. Here's the problem. Here's the thing. This case, it's going to be decided, or it seems like certain parties in the media and certain parties in society want this case to be decided along lines of black and white. It is not a black and white case.
No,
there's not a clear right and wrong here, depending on really your perspective. But here is the actual arrest report.
Okay.
So now the police officer who responded, right, that made the arrest, was told by a witness, "There's the person who did it. So I gave the suspect instructions to keep his hands up in the air. During this time, the suspect said verbally out loud, quote, I was protecting myself. It should be noted that I had not questioned him about the incident when he made that comment. I asked him if he had any weapons. He said no. I patted him down for weapons while we were walking along the fence, and I did not locate any on his person. I instructed the male to continue walking along the fence which he complied towards an area where he was an opening. All right.
Okay.
While walking him off the track, the suspect also said he put his hands on me. I then detained the suspect in handcuffed behind his back, and had him sit down on the ground. All right. Officer Ritchie had arrived on the scene at the time. I conducted another pat down of this person and then searched this person after he gave me consent. No weapons were located. While the suspect sat on the ground, I advised that I had the alleged suspect. The suspect then responds and said, I'm not alleged. I did it.
That is admissible in court.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, of course.
Because he hasn't been read his rights at that point still. Well, even that doesn't matter. No, because I'm sure he had a body camera on him too. That probably caught. Yeah. Yes, you can't plead that you didn't do it. I mean, not that you were going to plead that anyways, but all right.
Yep. As we were walking to the squad car, the suspect was emotional and said, "He put his hands on me. I told him not to. I did not question the suspect about the incident while he was escorted to the patrol vehicle." So this guy, so Anthony's just fucking talking.
He's talking and pleading self-defense,
yeah.
which, if he is a smart kid, he's got 3.7 GPA, works 2 jobs, right? We discussed this previously. He probably does know that this is being recorded, and the best thing he can do is to one, plead his case while on the camera, right, and while with the officer.
Oh, you know what? Hold on.
And two, ask. This is late in the report, but as we discussed, ask if the victim is okay.
Yeah.
So that is on tape and that is on record. So it's kind of smart. I'm not saying he's trying to hide away a murder or something. Well, I guess kind of you are, huh?
I mean, will they make this body camera public?
I imagine. Well, this would be in court. After court, I don't know if it would be public.
Well, I mean, we saw the body camera yesterday of the woman, the teacher who was arrested for abusing the student.
That seems so cut because that's not like the main evidence. You know what I mean? Yeah. This is evidence.
While sitting in the backseat of the patrol car, the suspect asked me, "Is he going to be okay?" Talking about Austin Metcalf getting stabbed.
Exactly.
Probably not. You stabbed him in the chest. So.
What is that? What the officer said?
No.
Oh, I was like, that is horrible. The officer said that to the kid.
That's what I'm saying. Again, the officers did not question everything Carmelo is saying. He is just
saying freely
freely.
Yeah.
So
this is all admissible.
Yeah, they're talking about when they brought him to jail. They placed him in jail, kept his possessions, changed him into they did a whole search and everything like that. And then the body worn camera is now evidence.
Yeah, exactly.
So
because that arrest video we were watching was not evidence to the case. You know what I mean? There's no crime being committed on camera.
Yep. There's a supplemental here for the other officer, who also says Anthony the man is saying, "I'm not alleged. I did it." So there are 2 officers that actually heard
cameras, probably,
and it's on their camera.
Okay.
So yeah, so this arrest report does not
paint a great picture.
No, it does not.
But at the same time, this arrest report does also tell you this, and the body camera footage tells you this. He's pleading his case there, trying to give rationale, right? So it's not like you can't say this person is an irrational person.
Suspect was crying hysterically.
Oh, never mind. Okay, not exactly rational. Huh? Yeah,
that's literally what the police wrote.
Yeah,
suspect was crying hysterically.
The thing that he has the thing he has going for him in this is the fact that he is asking about the victim because he shows that he didn't intend to kill him, right?
Yeah.
Granted, you did stab him in the chest, so I don't know what you're thinking. And then also probably in the heart, I imagine, because you could be punctured in the lung and still live, even though it is hard.
Yeah.
But if he died right there and then, I imagine it was artery, heart. That's not like a very easy thing to hit on by accident. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know.
So that's the other thing is where was he stabbed exactly in the chest?
Must have pierced his heart.
Yeah, it must have been because he died on the field pretty much. There.
Yeah, he died there. Yeah.
Pretty much.
So officers began to set up the crime scene with tape moving. Non-essential personnel out of the immediate area. The officers on scene were informed that the knife that was used was tossed and was still believed to be somewhere close. Eventually, one of the witnesses said they remember seeing it on the bleachers still. Officer Schultz was able to locate the knife. It was located between rows 9 and 10 near seat 30, closest to the aisle, partially open. So it was a switchblade. So it was partially open, so it was a switchblade. Or at least something like that. Or something that,
I don't think it was a switchblade because a switchblade stabbing in the heart. I mean, still, yeah.
Or something you open up. It
was like those kind of daggers.
He didn't have a Rambo knife.
No.
The rain began to come down again heavily, and it was determined that instead of moving the knife, the officers covered up with a large blue tarp. So they had to cover everything. And one of the officers started taking photos with his own camera on his phone because it was raining. He wanted to get as much of the crime scene as possible.
It could be one of these. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
those are
it's like
they're not. Well, those aren't exactly small knives. They're still pretty decent, bigger. And is it black? So I imagine like something like this, but bigger, probably a little bigger than this. So this is off camera, people, but still, it's not exactly a knife you use for just carving wood. This is a pretty clear this can be used for self defense and other things. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's other supplementals here from but they really basically just support everything that we've already talked about.
How many witnesses were interviewed?
The last article I saw, 75 witnesses were interviewed.
And this is pretty consistent amongst the 75, or do you think there's probably some varying details?
I think there's pretty much consistent. Here we go. Oh, here we go. There's another officer. This is Officer Wetzel. Hey, Wetzel. Taylor Wetzel. Let's see here. Let's see. Austin had told Anthony that he needed to move out from under the team's tent, and Anthony grabbed his bag, opened it, and reached inside and proceeded to tell Austin, "Touch me and see what happens." No one really thought Anthony really had any weapons in his bag, and Austin proceeded to touch Anthony. And then Anthony told Austin to punch him and see what happens. A short time later, Austin grabbed Anthony to tell him to move, and Anthony pulled out what blank recalled, this is there because of the witness, recalled as a black knife and stabbed Austin once in the chest and then ran away. Austin began grabbing his chest and telling everyone to get help. Blank advised he did not know Anthony's name, but stated another Memorial Track member, Blank, was friends with Anthony and he could identify Anthony. Blank described Anthony as a black male, skinny with possibly a goatee, short, puffy hair, and wearing Centennial High School clothing. This concluded my contact with this witness. And he started.
You're talking about when he went after that.
So yeah, so we've got.
Okay, here's the problem.
We got immediate eyewitness testimony.
Okay, if that's the testimony that's consistent and what the officers were receiving, the problem is stand your ground requires that there is immediate body harm to be.
Yeah, you're actually invoking it. He's like, hit me.
He actually said, "Hit me."
Hit me.
Well, he touched him lightly. Essentially, very first, because as I understand, touched him first.
Let me get back here.
Yeah, read it again. If you read the exact details, it touched him, and then he grabbed him by the shoulders. Is what it sounds like to me.
See, that was Wetzel we talked
right
about?
there.
Right there. Okay.
No one really thought he had a knife. Okay, yeah, touched
Austin had told him to move out of the tent. Anthony. So he hadn't touched him.
Then
Anthony's reached into his bag, and he says, "Touch me and see what happens." No one really thought Anthony really had any weapons in the bag, and Austin proceeded to touch Anthony.
So touch him doesn't mean.
So it's like, I dare you. It's like a little game. I dare you. It's like, oh, I'm not touching you. I'm touching you. You know, it's like
touches him. But then after he grabbed him.
A short time later, Austin again everything escalated. So then he's saying, "Punch me and see what happens." And a short time he's like, "You know what? You need to get out of here. We don't need this shit in my tent."
And grabbed him to try to remove him.
Which
you could then say is within his rights because this kid is becoming now belligerent with a tent that he's not supposed to even be in. So now you can even argue that he had a reason to try to remove Anthony. Granted, it's still not valid enough reason to put your hands on somebody. You should still grab the supervisor. No offense.
Huh?
But the fact that you've got
we have more here.
If that is what's consistent, that's troubling for any defense because you're gonna be like, oh, if that's a consistent testimony, he touched you once and then you still wouldn't move. You still stood your ground there. He grabbed you, which wasn't is wrong as assault at the very worst. But isn't clearly trying to harm you in a significant manner. You know what I mean? It's not like he's trying to grab you and like choke you out or something, right? And then you stabbed him in the chest. Yeah, this is gonna be really hard to plead stand your ground. And self-defense, because self-defense requires a certain amount of danger to be exhibited.
His officer Alvin Fisher, who interviewed Hunter, the twin brother, right after.
Ugh. Well, okay. I know this is gonna sound horrible and say, but disclaimer. This is the twin brother who is going to be significantly biased.
Yeah.
As wrong as that is, I'm not saying he's wrong because clearly these events took place, but you can't really rely on his testimony as a key testimony.
I don't know. It seems like I'll read it to you. Let me read you the report. He couldn't get anything out of Hunter, but stated that he wanted to speak because Hunter was crying. He was very upset. He goes, I asked him what happened, and he stated they were all sitting on the bleachers under a Memorial High School tent when another male, who he did not know, walked over and sat under the tent. Blank then said Austin, the victim, told this male that since he did not go to Memorial, he had to leave the tent. So basically the guy's saying, hey, this is not your tent, you need to leave. Austin and the male went back and forth, and then Austin stood up and pushed the male to get him out of the tent. Blank had said during the time of arguing, the male was reaching around in his bag he had. It was at this time the male took out a knife and stabbed Austin and then left the scene. This is all Blank remembered when he talked to me. After this, I then stood by with 3 athlete witnesses until CID arrived and interviewed them. I was then relieved by an SRO and went back to
So let's get this straight then, essentially.
patrol.
He didn't even grab you,
No.
possibly. And he probably didn't even grab you. He touched you and then he pushed you.
Yeah.
Which means he was pushing you away from him. Which means you had to have gotten up. According to this testimony, which is the brother, which again we have to say is biased, but also this is a moment of traumatic tragedy. He may not be recurring details immediately perfectly, but he's at least recurring the death of his brother. So cut him some slack. Twin brother to be, to say the least. That means Anthony would have had to have gotten up and reapproached the student to stab him.
Yep.
Which means he would have had to engage, which isn't stand your ground, which means you have chosen to purposely involve yourself into a situation. Because if he charged him essentially to stab him, well, not charge, but approached him to stab him after being pushed, you had the option of a supervisor right there to tell you, hey, your student who pushed me, I just need to sit underneath the tent because it's raining. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could go talk to the supervisor and he would resolve it and he'd be on your side. This kid then, according to this specific testimony, the kid needlessly escalated the situation.
Yeah.
Which is not a good thing.
Well, I mean, he died at the scene, but they tried to. This is the officers that met the hospital, that met the ambulance at the hospital. Officer Newton. I arrived prior to the ambulance and waited for them to arrive. They arrived at 10:46 hours with the victim, Austin Metcalf, who knows Austin Metcalf now, who was brought into the trauma bay for treatment. They were trying to revive him. They're trying to give him blood transfusion, anything. At 10:53 hours, Dr. Cow pronounced Austin deceased.
So they tried to bring him back for
Once he was
9
pronounced,
minutes, right?
Once he was
5,
pronounced,
7.
staff stopped treatment and disconnected cords and tubes from machines without removing anything from the body itself. While on scene, I took possession of clothing worn by Austin and maintained possession of the items until CSI Dillard took them from me. While on scene, Officer Landon requested assistance in lifting the sheets off the body to take photos. I then placed the sheets back when complete. I then stood by in the room for security while Officer Landon, Officer Hernandez, and CSI Dillard took additional photos. At one point, they rolled the body and removed shorts from Austin, which were bagged and stayed in my custody until CSI took them. At 13:24 hours, family was allowed into the scene to view the body.
So this is like 2 hours essentially later.
I was informed by staff and officers that they would be allowed to touch the head and feet of Austin, which they did. At 13:37 hours, nurses from the hospital bag Austin in a body bag. At 15:15 hours, a transport service for the medical examiner arrived and took possession of the body.
So 3:54 he's out of the hospital. For at least 7 minutes in the hospital, they tried to resuscitate him. On the way there, they're probably trying to resuscitate him.
Yeah.
So they were trying to resuscitate him for at least probably 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
They knew it was but the doctor on call in the ER was like, "This is done. It's done.
This is nothing."
It only took them a few minutes. There was no.
They were like, "We can't. Even if we try to repair the heart by then, it's dead. It's too long."
Yeah.
There's no miracle that you can work in that in terms of at least human hands. You can't work a miracle like that.
This thing goes on. There's witness statements.
So they gathered and bagged this evidence very carefully.
Oh yeah,
procedurally.
Yeah.
So that you can't even dispute the evidence because according to all this testimony and probably also the reports from the hospital and the body cams, right? Which I'm assuming are still on.
Here are all the names blanked out of all the
witnesses. Yeah,
that they need to go talk to.
Dude, that must be a shitty week at school to get called into the office and be like, "Oh, we need to talk to you about this incident." Because you probably get grilled for about an hour.
Yeah.
And I say grilled because that's what it feels like as a kid. But I'm sure they're trying to be as polite and as understanding to a kid who just witnessed them. You know what I mean? Who possibly was friends with the student. Yeah. That's devastating.
I have less and less sympathy for this guy right
listen, I at first was like, okay, I could maybe see a self-defense if he was like being grabbed and stuff and an accidental death, second-degree murder. But as this goes on, I'm not surprised that they charge him with first degree now. Because if they are relying on Hunter's witness testimony, and if this testimony is consistent with like most, if not a majority of the 75 witnesses, never mind if there's footage of this, right? Which we don't even know if that's possible. If there is, who knows who was recording what. It's a clear shot case that this guy was this did not necessitate self-defense to this degree. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is rough.
It's pretty sad when you read it, and then Yeah, so I think
It's
that's
gonna be suck. It kind of sucked to be the officer there because they're just with a dead kid the whole time. It's like
yeah.
it's haunting. I don't not envy that job sometimes.
I know. It's really gonna, especially with a kid, especially with a
Yeah,
kid like that.
yeah.
Um,
Gotta break it.
I have all the sympathy in the world for the parents of both families. I mean, just
Yeah, 2 lives ruined essentially.
it seems like both kids were raised right, and just something was missed somewhere, and something went horribly wrong where this type of violence to escalate to this type of violence. And again, it's going to be made into a black and white thing, and it shouldn't be.
No,
It should not
this
be
has
made
nothing
into
to
a
do
black
with
and
race.
white.
This has everything. Now, if the defense gonna try to pivot to race, I would understand.
Well, here's the thing. I was thinking
The
about
best
this.
defense would be kind of try to pull it that way.
I was thinking about this morning. Somewhere, somehow, those defense attorneys, if they're smart, they're going to go interview the people at Austin Metcalf High School, and they're going to find, because they say this is this football guy, and this is smart and popular. They're going to find 1 or 2 or 3 not so popular kids who maybe were bullied by this guy, and they're going to be able to use like, hey, see, this guy was a bully. This guy's not the popular guy we thought he was. That
That might
I
be
guarantee
yeah.
you the defense is doing that right now, or getting ready to do that.
I mean, it would be smart
We're
if
going
the
through-
defense, as fucked up as it is.
They're gonna want Austin Metcalf's school records to see was he ever disciplined for bullying, for hazing, for anything like that, for any type of incidents like that.
I mean, he was an MVP on the football team. I don't think.
Buddy, when I grew up, the jocks on the football team were the biggest bullies in the world.
No, I know.
And I was at one point a jock on a football team, and I was the dichotomy. I was the nerd, but I also played football. It was really weird.
Yeah.
And my best friends were nerds, and I
Well,
basically
that was a little
protected them.
Well, now it's a little different. Now it's a little more different. Most of my relationships with when I did know my high school football friends.
It's different. There's
A little-
popularity and there's popularity.
Different.
Right?
It is a bit different. I don't think it's as popular as it was back then. I think it's a little more. There's a little more too many consequences when it comes to that kind of stuff for the players.
I know, but not everybody's perfect.
No, I'm not saying that.
Neither of these kids is perfect, and I'm going to bet that the kid who is dead, and I'm not saying that you should victim blame or shame, but if we're playing devil's advocate about if we were the defense attorney, if we were on the defense team, we're absolutely looking into that type of stuff.
You're gonna try any way, shape, or form to find something that makes him not look as innocent as he is.
Yeah,
You're trying to justify the actions of maybe your defendant, I guess, which is
your job is to defend your client as best as you possibly can within the confines of the law, and that's what that defense attorney is going to do. I want to be as hard ass as I can be about this whole thing and say Carmelo Anthony, he should, from what I've seen and blah blah blah, all that. But
there could be circumstances surrounding why he had the knife. You know what I mean? That's the big question. Like I brought up the first time, and you keep pounding about it. Why do you have a knife there?
And I keep coming back to the point though, he's a 17-year-old kid.
Exactly as well.
And I know that's not new and that's not uncommon nowadays in the United States of America for 17-year-old kids to be involved in that type of stuff, but it's nothing you get used to. I'm not used to it.
No.
It may be something I go, okay, that's common, but it's not something I get used to.
It's something you should get used to. It shouldn't be the norm,
It shouldn't be. I'm not desensitized to it. Maybe some other parts of society are.
Yeah, you're going to high school. Sometimes you hear some things. It's like, all right.
I'm not. It doesn't saying it's a race issue does not help it. It doesn't give him any sympathy with any jurors.
No, it might get him sympathy with jurors if they move it, and then also.
But here's the thing: the reason they're making it a race, some outside forces are making it a race, is they don't see Carmelo Anthony as a person that they want to help. These outside forces, these BLM activists, and all, they don't see Carmelo Anthony as like, we need to save him, we need to help him, we need to. No, they see him as a tool to raise money to make themselves more rich or more powerful or whatever else they're going to gain. They're not there to help him.
Which is a shame.
They're not. Yeah, it's a shame. They're not there to help him. They're there to take his picture and slap it on a flyer for fundraising. That's what they're there for. And that's the thing that people don't really realize. It's not that these organizations are there for the aid of this child. They're there to take advantage of the situation this child finds themselves in to gain money, to gain notoriety, to gain exposure. And I guess that's why I'm so against this becoming a race issue, because it doesn't help to defend it in one bit.